Hi, my soul family. I am so incredibly excited to share this podcast with you. Did you know that depression has tripled since the pandemic? And did you know that top trending news is stating that depression is probably not caused by chemical imbalances in the brain? We have been saying this for all of eternity from the spiritual realm. So today, I'm going to break down the root cause of depression from a spiritual psychology, soul-based perspective. I'm so excited. If you are somebody who really cares about people, if you're somebody who coaches or somebody that really wants to make an impact in the world, you definitely want to listen to this podcast. My promise is for you to have a complete paradigm shift of understanding how depression is created, how we can recreate it to heal and reveal the truth of who we are. Let's go. Welcome to the Dr. Erin Podcast. This is a top spiritual psychology coach podcast to inspire and teach you how to transform your trauma, birth your soul's purpose, and manifest your dreams. Hi, I'm Dr. Erin, Dr. Divinity. I'm committed to bringing you the best coaching tips, spiritual advice, trauma healing, and metaphysical recovery secrets. I'm here to help you monetize your spiritual gifts and love your life. I want you to know that I've been exactly where you are, and I believe in you. Together, we're awakening the world. So there I was. It was 4:00 in the afternoon, and I decided to take a little siesta nap. And I laid down in my bed, and I was just about to take my phone and place it over on my side table and turn it into airplane mode when my phone began to show that one of my dear friends and master coaches was calling me. I debated in my mind, should I answer? Should I not? Okay, I'll answer. So I answered, and right away, her voice screeched on the other side of the phone. I need prayer. I need prayer. I need prayer. My son attempted suicide last night. My son attempted suicide last night. We went straight into prayer. We knew prayer for, I don't even know how long we were in there. We were in there. Just the tears of compassion, the tears of the oneness all came through, knowing the perfection of what her son had gone through, knowing that there is such a blessing of birthing truth, knowing right here, right now, that whatever he was experiencing, that this was the birthing pains of the new him, the new life, aligning to his truth and his heart. And of course, through the prayer, we both became more and more empowered, and we restored truth in mind. So the point is this, is that phone call made me realize that in the collective consciousness, that depression and suicidal ideation and even suicide attempts and suicide in itself is in the collective. I had two other signs, and for me, right, I don't necessarily go on Google Trends to see what's happening in the world because we tap into truth and we know truth at all points in time. Boston University states that depression among adults in the United States tripled in the early 2020 months of the global coronavirus pandemic, jumping to 8.5% before the pandemic to a staggering 27.8%. You guys get that? Almost 1 in a third of Americans is dealing with depression, you guys. This is no joke. Boston University states new research from the School of Public Health reveals that the elevated rate of depression has persisted into 2021 and even worse, at climbing to 32.8% and affecting 1 in every American adults. Obviously, they don't have the stats on 2022 yet, but this is real. This is super real. So what happens for me is I don't need an article to come out, right? I don't need to see the Google trending or watch Twitter. I know what's happening from a spiritual perspective. And what happens is it comes through in 3 signs always. And this is part of it. So what happened, of course, that was the third incident that happened when my dear friend and master coach called about her son. Prior to that, within that same week, within the same last week, one of my clients in class was basically stating that her son was having suicidal ideation. And then in one of my practitioner classes, 3 out of of course, we have lots of practitioners in the class, but 3 of them were truly feeling the collective consciousness of the concept of, I don't want to live. And they were dealing with that. And these are 3 practitioners that are very stable and really know their mind. It's that they were tapping into something beyond their individual consciousness. They were feeling the empathy that we are, that we're empaths, right? That we feel the collective as well. So today I want to break on down what is happening from a spiritual psychology perspective and break on down the trending top news about big pharma. Okay. We are spiritualists that believe that you have freedom of choice, whether you choose traditional doctors or pharmaceuticals or whatever. We believe that there's a time and a place for whatever works for you, and we honor that. Okay. However, in the top trending news right now, even in quote, quote, the conversation, is depression is probably not caused by chemical imbalance. Harvard University also had an article that says, basically talking about what causes depression. The onset of depression is more complex than brain chemical imbalance. OMG, this is huge news for the spiritual world as far as a confirmation of what we have been saying the entire time. So we have to break this on down. And my commitment today is for you to have a paradigm shift for yourself. And if you are a coach, to understand what is happening for your clients. Disclosure. I am not a traditional doctor. I am a doctor of divinity. I am not a traditional psychologist. I am a spiritual psychologist coach. Okay. I am trained and developed in understanding our spiritual nature, how it impacts our entire life, and how to restore the truth of who we are through E4 trauma method, through spiritual psychology coaching, and through all of the metaphysics that we teach, universal law, everything. Let's break this on down. I'm so honored to do this with you guys. First of all, I just want to say, if you or someone you know is dealing with depression, please seek medical or professional help, okay? All the processes we work through absolutely can deal with depression. However, we cannot state that we cure, and we are mandated reporters, meaning that if we have a client that we are coaching and they're having suicidal thoughts and they have a means to do it, we are mandated reporters and we need to report it. Okay. So having said that, also, if you are a coach or somebody dealing with somebody with depression and you really truly do not feel that you are equipped in your training, you absolutely have no business with dealing with someone with depression. You need to refer them to a master coach or to a professional or a doctor who is dealing with depression. Okay. So let's go. So here's the paradigm shift. Science looks at depression from the outside in, right? They are looking from a perspective of what we call the DSM. Okay. There's a book. If you have any kind of mental illness, there is a book. It's called DSM, a pharmaceutical perspective. It's called Diagnostics and Statistics Manual. The DSM it's based in Diagnostics and Statistics Manual, and it's sponsored by Big Pharma. The truth is that someone does not have depression. They are experiencing depression. It is a creation, and I'm going to break on down how it is created in mind, okay? Doesn't mean it's real. It doesn't mean the effects aren't real, but how it gets created is imperative for us to understand how to heal it and how to restore the truth of who you or your clients are, right? We're not the titles. We're not, quote, quote, depressed. We're not bipolar. We're not an addict. We're not, all these titles. I'm not even, of course, on the title, I'm a doctor of divinity, but I'm not a title. I'm a spiritual being. I'm a creator. You are a creator. Your clients are creators. So we have to understand what this means exactly. Science looks from the outside world and puts a Band-Aid on it, right? What causes this? Even psychology, traditional psychology, does not even study the soul. Psychology is the study of the soul, and psychology doesn't study the soul. That's why we're restoring it with spiritual psychology. And I bless all the psychologists out there, okay? Because I know you guys are wanting to get more and more spiritual. And I'm not saying you're bad or the industry bad. It's that we as a collective need to restore the truth of psychology. It's the study of the soul. So traditional psychology looks at what the cause is, which is an outside source, and then it looks at the effect. So depression from a psychology perspective might look at, well, you grew up in this family and this happened, and therefore here's the result over here. From a spiritual psychology perspective, we take a look at what's actually happening at a soul level, right? So science looks from the outside in, and spirituality looks from the inside out, the root of the problem. Science generally, like big pharma puts a Band-Aid on it, and spirituality, we get to the root of the core trauma that happened, right? So all personality disorders, all mental health disorders they all begin within the soul. And we're going to teach you how, I'm going to teach you how it begins at a soul level. So mental illness is not just a brain chemical imbalance from a spiritual perspective. It is something that happens as a cause and effect of what's being created at a subconscious soul level. And this is how it goes. This is how it breaks down. Okay. So here's a personal story of mine. I dealt with depression in my early 20s, my late teens and my early 20s. I had come from a divorced family. I had really no structure growing up. My father had kind of gone off and had a different family. My mother was borderline alcoholic. She didn't really have much structure or principles in her life. And bless both of my parents, I'm very good with both of them now. Okay. We've done a lot of healing. I, in junior high, began to drink and try drugs. Luckily, I didn't like drugs, but when I was in high school, I was date raped, and then I began to spiral into an eating disorder, bulimia. And then I thought getting married would solve it all. And I had a full-term stillborn, and so on and so forth, meaning that I had a lot of traumatic incidences over the course of my life. Some big, some mini, but the point is there was a lot of discord. And when you take a look back into my past generations, my great grandfather committed suicide, died by suicide, as we're supposed to say, right? He jumped off what was called and is called Suicide Bridge in Pasadena, California. So needless to say that in my lineage and in my epigenetics and my DNA, there's already a lot of energetics of probably leaning towards having more sadness and more depression potential. Okay. We have to know that we are our lineage. We are our parents, our grandparents, and all of our lineage. All the energetics comes down, and science is even proving this now, that through epigenetics, we are dealing with whatever we're dealing with. So collectively out there in the world, we are collectively traumatized. We know this through trauma-informed work, and everyone is dealing with energetics, not to mention what's happening out in the world, right? That amplifies the entire thing that we're going through. Okay. So what happens from a mind, from a spiritual psychology, from a soul perspective? When we say mind, we're not talking about the mini mind. We're talking about the divine mind. We're talking about that part of us that is connected with everything. Okay. So let's break this down. Let's pretend that there was a new baby, and the baby did not have a great grandfather that committed suicide. The baby actually came from a very healthy family, and basically they stumble into creating depression. How would this happen in this lifetime per se from a spiritual perspective? So what happens is depression, it does not come on like over one incident per se. Depression is a culmination that happens over many creations generally. Okay. What happens at first, someone begins to get upset in their life. Maybe something didn't happen that they want to happen. They want people, places in life to be different, and they start getting upset about whatever happened, whether it be, a breakup, whether it be whatever happens. Someone doesn't show up to Christmas. So I always use that analogy, right? Whatever happens or doesn't happen, this person begins to get upset. And basically, an upset is where you feel like you can't create what you want to create in life. You're looking to the world to change instead of looking for yourself to change. So this begins an upset in mind. And this begins, of course, energetic patterns, and it also creates all different things at a soul level. Upsets compound into sadness. Okay. When you're upset and you get upset long enough and you keep getting upset, then it compounds into sadness, really feeling like, wow, I'm sad. I can't create what I really want to create, right? I'm the effect of life, and I am feeling the effect, and I'm getting more and more sad that I can't create what I want to create. Okay. This begins to have health issues, mental issues, so on and so forth. And it impacts the neurological system. Next is sadness. When you feel like you're so sad and you still really can't create what you want to create, you're feeling the effect of yourself. Maybe all the chemicals in your body now are aligning to what you've created in mind, right? And then it compounds into depression. So whether you want to say you are prone to it in your biological system, the truth is that it was created in mind. Depression is created in mind, and it begins with upset, sadness, and depression. It could, of course, it can be from a zillion different things. It doesn't matter if it's from war or from someone else, passing away or big breakups. It doesn't matter the cause of external. What matters is the cause of what happens in mind. What happens and what causes everything is first cause, which is spirit, which is the backing of all energy, which is you deciding and creating. Thomas Troward is one of the masters in our industry that was a lawyer over in the East in India, and he began to break down universal law and understand the kind of cosmic Christ principles from a lawyer's perspective. How do we break this down of tangible things, right? So this is the deal. When somebody considers themselves to not be the I am pure potential and a creator, right? They instantaneously create the polarity of the entire universe into existence. So if you're dealing with a client, say you are a coach and you need to come in and get accredited and certified in the work to actually do this, do not just work with somebody that's working with depression. You need to become a master coach and master this work front and back. Make sure that you're doing this correctly, okay? But if you're dealing with a client, say I'm dealing with a client with depression, obviously, first of all, it would have to be one-on-one because I would never put somebody dealing with depression in a group, and I would make sure they get signed off by a medical doctor so that I am actually making sure that there's not a chemical imbalance and they don't need kind of further help in a medical field. Okay. But let's pretend they've been checked off by the traditional doctor. They're able to do trauma work and they're able to come in and do deep, deep spiritual work. Okay. So what we're going to deal with is we're going to begin to deal with all the upsets, all the sadness, all of those things in their life. We're going to begin to slowly, it's like peeling away the onion is what we call it, right? So if you're getting to the core of the onion, right, you've got to peel off all these layers. Sometimes it's red onion, sometimes it's white onion, and you peel off these layers. You peel off the layers, and soon enough, you're all the way to the middle. And it's intense getting there, right? Your eyes, you're crying, you've got all this stuff going on. It's kind of like this with dealing with somebody with depression. You've got to be able to peel away all the upsets, all the sadness, all the failed expectations, all their expectations of life, and begin to restore the truth that they created this. That's a hard pill to swallow, right? But it's the truth. Depression is created in mind. It can happen in over a short period. It can happen over a lifetime. It can happen over many, many lifetimes. But the truth is that you are not, quote, quote, depression. Your client is not, quote, quote, depression. You or your client might be experiencing depression, but the truth is you are not depression. You have the ability to recreate your life. And this is what we know from so many masters of being able to go to that point. Eckhart Tolle was one of them, of the power of now, right? The new earth. He was in a moment where he didn't want to live anymore. And in that moment, he heard the voice within that was deciding and saying, I don't want to live. And he realized there was something, a mechanism, a witness within. And I know this for anybody that is thinking that they don't want to live, considering what is the point of all this? What's the meaning? What are we doing here? Because I think we're all asking that at some level. Maybe we may not be totally depressed, but maybe we kind of go, wow, what have we been doing, you guys? We're in the great awakening, going through the shift right now. And these are the birthing pains, you guys. This is what it looks like to birth something new. We have to throw out what no longer works for us. We have to take a quantum shift, a quantum leap. And we know energetically that nothing stays in the same field when it takes a quantum leap, that this is what it looks like. So I'm saying, thank you, depression. Thank you, suicide at whatever level, knowing that we'd never, ever want anyone to die by suicide. But I know that collectively we are going through some serious pain. And I say, thank you. I am so grateful for these dark times and moments that birth something new for each and every one of us. I'm so happy for my son's friend who attempted suicide who didn't, and that actually gets to have a second chance. It gets to be reborn like the phoenix rising. I'm so grateful. And in this, I say, these are the steps that need to happen. If you've got checked off by medical, if you're ready to do spiritual work, that the answer is this. The answer always is to do your deep trauma work, because in trauma work, the revelation is the revelation of understanding how you created your own limited beliefs, that you created your own change, your own jail that you put yourself in, that it doesn't matter what happened to you, that you always, always have a new choice to create something new out of that. So doing your deep trauma work is imperative for dealing with depression. Number one thing. Also, to make sure you are in a healthy and stable environment. So if you are not, or if you are healing, please find a spiritual family. And number three is to know the truth every single day. To get steeped in truth is imperative, to no longer look to the world. The moment we hand ourselves over to the world, our source over to the world, we will live in hell. Okay. That's taking us out of the Garden of Eden, right? We want to always come back to the truth and never hand our power over to the world out there. Depression is probably not caused by chemical imbalance by the conversation. This is a big, big thing in the news. And Harvard University really, again, stating what causes depression. Onset of depression is more complex than brain chemical imbalance. This is a truth. We know and are so grateful for the truth to prevail right here, right now. We are holding each and every one. There are answers. This is the birthing of the new world right here, right now. May we know the truth of who we are. We are creators. We only create, and it is the only creative process. And we create through the mind, through what is considered the subconscious mind, the one divine mind that's connected with all of life, the collective and the cosmic. You are not an individual. You are the individual divine. You are the collective and you are the cosmic. We are together, and together we rise, together we stand, divided we fall. May we know the truth, you guys, and may you live your truth. So if you're somebody who is ready to get trained in spiritual psychology coaching, if you're ready to get trained in E4 trauma method, if you're ready to really be in a community of like-minded spiritual entrepreneurs, coaches and leaders, practitioners, and so on and so forth, I invite you to come into our incredible community. There's links below. Have a beautiful day, and may you live your truth.